Let's start off by crediting South Florida. They played with the appropriate level of force. And
everyone believed that the national team squad was a definitive list of seasoned players who would win the gold without any interruptions. However, rumors that leaked from a tightly controlled, private practice session have completely upended the basketball world and left some of its most influential coaches dumbfounded. For weeks, there have been rumors about what actually occurs when the cameras stop rolling and the up-and-coming talent compete against the seasoned pros in settings where pride is the only thing at stake. In order to justify the removal of the most well-known rookie in the history of the sport, it was expected that the older players would readily demonstrate their superiority and provide evidence for the selection committee's decisions. Instead, witnesses to a recent high-level scrimmage claimed that Caitlin Clark onto the court and performed maneuvers so perfect and unparalleled that the gym fell silent. She wasn't simply playing basketball. She was giving a masterclass that totally destroyed the world's top players' defensive tactics. Every admirer who said she was denied a chance to perform on the international stage was immediately justified by this moment of pure, unquestionable talent. According to reports, the veteran players were absolutely taken aback by the scrimmage's intensity because they had anticipated a shy rookie who would automatically submit to their seniority. However, the rookie showed up with a noticeable chip on her shoulder, ready to take advantage of every flaw in the defense of the national team. It was nothing short of a basketball revelation what transpired throughout that session, highlighting the obvious shortcomings of an outdated mindset that values tenure over exceptional talent. However, the incredible photos she took that day were just the start of a much bigger, far more contentious tale. What happened next on the practice floor revealed the obvious weaknesses in the seasoned squad's defensive strategies and totally defied the laws of physics. The seasoned defenders were unable to raise their hands in time to contest the ball as Clark started to pull up from well beyond the logo, nailing consecutive shots with a release so quick. We're talking about deep, extremely challenging threes that would ordinarily be regarded as awful shots by anyone else, but for her, they were falling with frightening regularity. As the net continued to swoosh without the ball ever touching the hoop, the coaches on the sidelines, the same individuals who vehemently urged that she needed more time to develop before facing international competition, were apparently exchanging anxious looks. The moment she reached half court, she attracted double and even triple coverage, producing an uncontrollable gravitational pull that the established national team was unable to control. She completely neutralized the physical play that veterans typically use to frighten younger players by finding an impossible escape path each time they attempted to aggressively trap her in the corners or blitz her on the pick and roll. She demonstrated exactly what the official roster was sorely lacking in terms of stretching the floor, as her offensive pressure was unmatched by anything the coaching staff had planned for. A player who appeared to have boundless shooting range reportedly left defenders who had won numerous championships and defensive awards looking completely useless, their footwork made outdated. This was more than a fortunate run. The defensive paradigm that had guided the national team for more than 10 years was methodically dismantled. And everyone in the building would be even more shocked by what transpired next. The building was completely startled by more than just her firing. Olympic-caliber defenders appeared to be moving in slow time due to the exhibition of extremely sophisticated court vision. Before players even knew where they were meant to go, Clark began threading blind, no-look passes through incredibly small windows. She hit a cutter perfectly in stride for an uncontested layup in one particular reported scenario that has been much discussed in inside basketball circles. She fired a blistering pass directly past the extended arms of 3 converging defenders. The veterans of the national team were clearly frustrated since she was digesting the game's geometry at a speed they had never experienced before, making it impossible for them to read her eyes or anticipate her next move. Coaches who had dedicated their illustrious careers to teaching basic, conservative basketball were suddenly witnessing a first-year professional skillfully alter the playbook in front of them. It was a nightmare for the opposing sideline to plan against her ability to psychologically manipulate the defense, making them overcommit to the threat of her shooting, just to punish them with a crushing assist. Everyone in the gym could clearly see that her basketball IQ was not only prepared for the international arena, but it was possibly even higher than that of the seasoned veterans who were meant to be the unquestionable gold standard. She was practically playing chess while the nation's best defensive stoppers were playing checkers. Responding to each decision, she made a full second too late. However, there was more to the story than that incredible demonstration of attacking ability. To fully comprehend the enormous, given the gravity of what transpired in that gym, you must consider the intensely contentious and harshly condemned choice that initially ignited this whole controversy. Clark's name was conspicuously missing from the official Olympic roster when it was made public. The selection committee vehemently defended this decision by citing veteran experience and the critical requirement for established chemistry. They completely ignored the fact that she had just spent her whole undergraduate career shattering every scoring record possible under extreme, oppressive strain, claiming that the international game was simply too physical, demanding, and sophisticated for a rookie to handle. Regardless of their real quantitative aptitude or impact on the sport, rookies just need to wait their turn, according to the mainstream media narrative that quickly attempted to portray the exclusion as a necessary rite of passage. However, the people didn't believe a word of it, and the sheer amount of fury throughout the world demonstrated that the fans could spot a deeply political move when they saw one. Protecting the fragile egos of older players who felt seriously threatened by the unexpected entrance of a generational superstar was much more important than assembling the best basketball talent in the nation. The committee took a big risk in the hopes that its seasoned team would win so convincingly in Paris that people would soon forget about the huge rejection. They utterly underestimated the enormous cultural phenomenon they had just purposefully ignored, assuming the commotion would subside once the awards were distributed. However, the truth of that covert practice session demonstrated that their enormous risk was a huge, humiliating failure from the outset. The coaching establishment's cohesive front has begun to seriously deteriorate due to the indisputable reality of her exceptional ability level, resulting in some very surprising public admissions that made headlines. Recently, Dawn Staley, a well-respected, powerful voice and important member of the national team ecosystem, surprised the sports world by openly acknowledging that Clark would be at the top of the committee's list if they had to make the choice again. This was a huge, unusual departure from the initial, meticulously constructed story, thus acting as a barely disguised, widely reported admission that the committee recognized they had committed a grave, maybe irreversible error. The fervent supporters had been yelling at the top of their voices for months, and Staley's remarkably honest remarks confirmed it. That a team built to showcase the world's greatest talent just cannot have a guy with that kind of revolutionary offensive gravity. This admission proved once and for all that raw, game-changing talent will always surpass tenure when the lights are at their highest. It was a huge, devastating blow to the first, flimsy rationale of requiring more experience. As they are compelled to watch her utterly destroy the professional league every night, it also powerfully hinted at the deep, unspoken regret that has been eating away at the establishment. The suspicions that the selection room was sharply divided from the start gained credence as Staley's remarks violated the unwritten code of silence among the coaching elite. Furthermore, the actions taken by the other, more obstinate coaches in reaction to this changing tide would only intensify the situation. While some well-known individuals, like Staley, were prepared to swallow their pride and accept the indisputable truth of the situation, others aggressively doubled down on their defensive stance, fostering a poisonous, closely watched environment of obstinacy. As Clark proceeded to defy expectations, Coach Cheryl Reeve, who has always been fiercely protective of her seasoned players and very dismissive of outside chatter, found herself squarely in the crosshairs of intense, harsh public scrutiny. A clear picture of an antiquated elite clutching desperately to a collapsing hierarchy that was quickly fading into obsolescence was created by Reeves' extremely defensive social media activity and extremely succinct, irritated media answers. There were persistent, widespread rumors of fierce, ruthless locker room politics, with older, more seasoned players apparently banding together in a concerted attempt to keep the new, enormously popular face of the game completely in check. Every single regular season game and private practice became an intensely personal, fiercely contested battle due to this underlying palpable tension, with veterans playing hyper-aggressive, extremely physical defense to make a point only to be completely destroyed by Clark's endless, deep range. The old guard's coordinated opposition was no longer limited to basketball. It was a clear-cut, urgent struggle to stay relevant in a quickly changing environment that was completely shifting toward a new age without their consent. They employed every dark art and physical strategy at their disposal to attempt to slow down a player who just refused to be intimidated as they battled an inevitable tsunami of change. However, they were going to pay a heavy price on the national scene for their collective unwillingness to change and embrace the future. Clark started what can only be called the most deadly, relentless revenge tour the professional league has ever seen, using the enormous, intensely personal insult of the Olympic roster's rejection as pure high-octane fuel. She didn't simply accept the committee's seriously poor choice in silence. After entering the professional court, she methodically started destroying fabled records that had remained unaltered for many years. She completely